families that's been affected by wrongful death. This system and this country has tore apart my family and our families. You can't have a black family and be together. How many more funerals do we gotta go to? And how many more scenes of the crime do we gotta watch them chalk out black figures on the concrete before we realize that the only way for us to ever get out of this predicament is to struggle to survive? We want to change, we gotta fight for it. Ain't nobody gonna give it to us. We just gonna have to take it.
Holla if you hear me. Here we go, turn it up, let's start. From block to block, we're snatching hearts and jacking marks. And the police can't fake me a minute.
You know what? You know what? First of all, hello to everybody. But you know what? This ain't one of those normal days, man.
Oh yeah? How comes this?
This ain't one of those normal days, man.
Oh yeah?
It's one of those days, like the beats has just been playing in the background. There's just been a lot of music. That's
one of those days.
This is one of those days. That's why we head bopping. That's why we're doing this today. This is one of those days.
Okay,
So,
it's one of those days.
All right, first of all, let me just start at the top. First off, this is Open Seminar 10. This is our Open Seminar series. We got the big 1-0. This is 10 now. We made it quite a way, man. That's 10 consecutive seminars. That's quite a thing that we managed to pull off. 10 consecutive seminars. We've been here every single week for 10 weeks in a row. That's 2.5 months. Like, that took a lot of work. That took a lot of managing for us to be here every week. Of course, a couple of people got buried in the process and happened. Hey, we don't talk about those anymore. Shush. We just, didn't happen. It's been fun, and we're still going. So this is the big 1-0. So I just want to thank everybody, for turning up. Thank you everybody for coming here. It's our Open Seminar series. You guys know what it is by now. We've got a different subject every week. We're here providing education a new way. It's like we sick and tired of the way school does things, and that's our topic for today. That's what we're talking about. But it's just not one of those regular days, man.
So how come? Why isn't it one of those regular days?
All right. So listen. Let me just be clear about something. This is not a political seminar. We're not here to kind of what have you. We're not here for any of that. That's not what we're here for. That's not the function of what we're doing. I'm not here to indoctrinate anybody, and we're not here to have that kind of conversation. Nevertheless, some particular issues demand attention. I don't know what to tell you. Some things just mean that you can't ignore them. You need to kind of demand your attention. And so I just want to start with RIP to George Floyd, obviously. Friends and family and everybody else. Condolences for everybody. And I know everybody's feeling the way right now. Yeah, and I feel like at some level, we can't really do the seminar and have a regular type conversation and not acknowledge that. Because I feel like we're old enough to know that we have seen this before. We're old enough to have seen this before, and we're old enough to have seen how this usually plays out. I'm not saying it does every time, but we've seen this in that respect. But for that reason, we're old enough also to know the importance of when lines get drawn in circumstances like this and people are putting themselves on sides and what have you. Yeah, I feel like I'm not one of those who feels like, no, we shouldn't be drawing lines. No, I'm down to draw this line. I'm 1,000% down to draw that line. So I just want to make it really, really, really clear. I want to make it 1,000% clear to everybody that there is a line. We are definitely drawing that line. I'm definitely drawing that line. As far as I'm concerned, this isn't one of those moments in history where it's about, listen, let's reconcile and let's get to know each other better. And maybe through conversation and discussion and sharing our feelings and thoughts, we can find some way of meeting in the middle. There's no middle here. This is one of those issues where there's no middle. This is one of those issues where I'm not down for having reconciliatory talk. I'm not down for having the kind of conversation that tries to find a middle path and a peaceful way. I'm not that dude. I never have been. I never will be. I can't do that. And I'm sorry, but some things there's no flexibility here, man. I'm sorry. That's just what it is. That's as far as I'm concerned. The way I see it is there's no room for flexibility here. I've got no room for. I'm not talking just as a brown person. I'm not talking as a brown man or whatever else. I'm talking as a person, as a human being. there's no room here for like, well, you got to see circumstances from both sides, and things are difficult right now. And if you look at it from the bigger picture, no, there's no bigger picture. There's no bigger picture. There's the picture. There's the picture we're all seeing live on our screens all fucking day now. There's that picture. Everybody knows what that picture is. We're all very clear about what that picture is. We're all very clear about what that picture means. I don't want to turn this seminar into a whole lecture on that issue. I could do that. And hey, listen, if we want to have that conversation one day, you guys hit me up either in the DMs or in the comments, or say it over here. If we want to have that conversation one day, we can have that conversation. That's not what today's for. But there are lines, and they're there for good reason. And as far as I'm concerned, I know where I stand on it. I hope you guys know where you stand on it. And if you're all on the same side of this line, then we all homies, and it's good, and we can, figure something out. And if not, then, that's cool. Enjoy the seminar. And if you don't see me talking to you on a regular basis, you know why. Like, that's just what it is. I'm not flexible here. There's no room for discussion and debate here. My whole thesis, the joke is that I'm not going to go into this, but like my whole thesis is about the issue of freedom, right? But from a philosophical point of view. And my argument was, the whole argument of my thesis is that freedom isn't a thing that's up for debate. It's not something you debate. You debate it on condition you don't understand what you're talking about. On that condition, you're debating freedom. Because you don't know what you're talking about. The thing that I said most was that freedom can no more be lost than God can be found. If God is there, he weren't waiting for you to find him, homie. Like, he was there. Yeah. We're not Christopher Columbus out here. Like, you discover America, go, oh my God, I discovered a country. Nah, there was a country, my G. It was there. Like, relax. You didn't, whatever. And it's the same thing with, if there's a God, you didn't discover that. That was there. And it's the same thing with freedom. It's not something that you lose like that. That's not how that works. So it's not something that's up for debate. And philosophically, that's where I stand. And it's informed to some degree, at least, either by my politics or my politics have informed that. I don't know. But the fact is that I'm not flexible here either. There's no debate here. There's no discussion. There's no debate. There's no reaction. There's no, like, what do you think? There's no, it's very clear. It's very crystal clear. We all know what we think. We all know what's right. And for those that don't, I don't really need to talk to you, home. Sorry. We don't need to you can watch and learn something and write some, bring a notepad. But we don't need to converse like that, because if you don't get it, like, I'm sick and tired of trying to explain it. At this stage in history, like, we tired of this. And like I said to you, at our age, we've seen it play out mad times before, and I'm past the point of having to explain it to motherfuckers like, yo, there's a good reason to feel away. There's a good reason to feel it. I had to explain, I was talking to a friend of mine earlier on today, and I was reminding them, like, bro, it's only been like 60 some odd years before Black people in the United States were recognized as people. Yeah. As people. That's 60. We're not talking about a lifetime. That's not a lifetime. And here you stressing about, like, oh, well, you got to look at it from both. No, there's no both sides here. There's no both sides. I'm sick and tired of the debate. We had Malcolm. We had Martin. We had those conversations. We had Tupac. We had hip-hop. We had counseling and psychological post-traumatic stress and the difficulties of the hood and economic circumstances. We've had all of that. We've had that. And I'm not opposed to any of those conversations. But what I'm saying is, given that we've had that, if a motherfucker doesn't know what's going on right now and sees the things in a particularly confusing way, homie, go educate yourself. Go educate yourself. There's sufficient material for you to go out there and educate yourself. Go educate yourself and come back to me. Because, like, I'm not walking you through how many years of pain, suffering, confusion, and struggle because you don't get it still. I didn't need you to get it. There's enough videos out there now. I mean, I didn't need you to get it. This wasn't an us issue. It's not like that. You made it crystal clear from day one. There's lines here, and I agree. This is what kills me about it. It's not as though the lines are being drawn now. All we're saying is we're observing the lines. Like, it's not as though, it's what bugs me. They talk about the protesters and people who are pissed off about this as though they're the ones drawing a line. I'm not drawing it. I'm observing that a line has existed. You put people according to a certain category in a certain group since day one. And now when people were like, okay, no, so you are definitely doing that? When you call bullshit on them, so it's not democratic and it's not equal. When you call bullshit and you go, oh, so it ain't like that? They go, oh, well, don't draw lines. Homie, I didn't put it there. Yeah. Anyway, I'm not getting into this. What do you, I don't know how you feel. Sorry.
Me? I don't even know how to begin to express my anger, disappointment. I'm sick and tired of this. Like, how many more times? How many more times before humans learn? I'm sick of this. It's to my stomach.
Don't say humans. Don't say humans. Don't say humans, because it's not all of us.
It's true. You're right. It's not all
Because the
of us.
motherfuckers getting shot. Because the motherfuckers getting shot at humans too, and they ain't doing it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's
No,
not.
you're right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's a particular motherfucker. It's a very particular motherfucker. Like, we know him too. And I'm saying him. We know that motherfucker too. Like, now, come on, man. It's him. It's him. You know how many times I met him? You know how many times you met him? How many times we dealt with him?
Yeah. Don't I know it?
That situation has come up. Come on, man. We met him. We know him. I know him. Everybody in this chat knows him. You all know him. Don't give me no bullshit. Everybody knows him. In fact, some of y'all know him and he's your friend. Or you know a friend of a friend who's him. You know this. Listen, I'm on my drawing lines bullshit. Don't start me on my Malcolm. I'm on my drawing lines, fam. I'm on my drawing lines. Like, you know him. You know him. You've met him before. You know friends who know him. And you know you've told yourselves, well, you know, it's cool, though, because, like, he's just him. Ain't a big deal. Nah, we ain't doing that no more. I'm done with that. I'm done with it.
It just makes me feel like, you know, we just need, I don't know, it's like what we were saying earlier. We need a shake-up, Ethan. The whole thing is
right.
broken. It's corrupt.
Listen, I like what you're doing. It's a nice segue. It's a nice move. See how you did that? Someone's always on point.
I got you.
Someone's always on game. Okay, I like this. See, this is why you hear and somebody else got buried. Never mind. The point is, I didn't say that out loud. Nobody heard nothing. We got post-production. You edit the fuck out of this. Who cares? But this is why you live. You know what I'm saying? It's much more fun. So you're right. You are absolutely 1,000% right. Something needs to change. Something needs to give. Something needs to break. You're right. This can't keep going the way that it is. And for the purposes of the next, like, 45 minutes or the next hour or so, while I ramble your ears off about some other bull, that's why you here, to be fair. That and the lineup. I'm just saying. Oh, it happened real early now. I got it out of the way.
Well, I'm glad it's out of the way. I hate to be surprised halfway through.
Just to get it done, get it out of the way, and then we can kind of kick it. You know what I'm saying? It's cool. But the point is, for the next 45 minutes or so, our primary concern is the changes in education. I'll say this. I was speaking to an ex-student of mine earlier today. I could talk about this because my man isn't here, so it's calm. Plus, y'all don't know him. Y'all don't know him. It's cool. The point is, I was speaking to an ex-student of mine earlier today. And in having that conversation, my man was saying to me, isn't it, I can understand the function of protest and rebellion. And can I just say, for one, I don't really like the term protest. It's rebellion. It's not protest. That's different. I'm not pissed off about I didn't get my refund. That's a protest.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I didn't want the vote to go a different way. That's a protest.
Okay.
I'm frustrated at my local mayor. No, I'm rebelling. This is different. This is not protest. I'm rebelling. I'm sick of you motherfuckers. That's what I'm saying. That's not protest. That's fuck you. That's different. That's a rebellion. That's not a protest. I get it right. But in any case, so he was saying, I understand the function of these rebellions. I get it, right? But isn't it equally important to educate? Of course, I said, what the fuck you think we've been doing?
Why am I here?
I almost felt away because I was like, homie, I'm your teacher. How you telling me to educate? Yo, give me your grades back. No, I'm sick and tired of this.
That was his nice way of saying you ain't hitting the point no more.
No, what I said to him is give me your grades back. I want those grades back. No, I did that. I want them back, please. So, evidently, I ain't teaching that. Give my shit back. Petty as fuck. Anyway, so the point is, so he's right, though, that the education is a function of this, right? The idea was that you are supposed to educate away others. But the educational system itself is similarly fucked. Let's not pretend that it's not touched by racism. Of course it is. I was in it.
Yeah.
Definitely touched by racism.
I mean, we were in Peckham, so...
Yeah, fam, it's definitely touched by racism. But
like, racist to the, yeah.
Yeah, so that's the thing. So it's touched by that, certainly. But in addition to that, of course, beyond the fact that education is touched by racism, the system itself is just a little broken. And for a number of reasons, right? We've all been through some level of schooling or done some level of education, and we all know, we've all got horror stories about how fucked it was at some point, in some way, to some degree. And it's not like, in happenstance. It's not like I just had a fucked up day today. We all had those stories too. But I mean, like, systemically, this seems fucked. Like, we all have that feeling. You know the common go-to? This is going to come up. So watch. Watch me sowing seeds here. Watch. But you know the common go-to is that everybody... Tell me if you don't find this familiar to you. Everybody has that experience of going to school and feeling like they're in a prison. Or feeling like there's some kind of similarity between school and prison. There's some overlap here. I know how you're looking at me like, nah, my school's amazing. I loved education. Personally, education was great for me. I don't know why we even talk.
This is where you can brand me every name under the sun.
Oh, I will.
You know,
We got 40 minutes.
Of geek.
We will. I got 45 minutes. The fuck you think I'm going to do? Yeah, all right, but
look, I get it. It's not that it escapes me, like the whole building and the corridors and the setup. But like, I loved school.
No, unbelievable. Did you feel comfortable? Did you feel comfortable like all the time? Were you comfortable in the hallways and the corridors? Were you comfortable all the time? You know,
as a female. Can I tell you something? No, I mean for real, and especially some. No. Listen to me seriously. Like recently, what's happened is I've connected with Warwick Park again.
Shout out Warwick Park. Yo, what up now, Warwick Park? Yeah, South London, Peckham, big up. Anyway, yes.
Warwick Park in Peckham, like, and seeing those pictures again and seeing them back, I was like, wow, that looks like a prison hall, right?
Yeah.
Do you remember the main hall in the middle of the school where we all had lunch?
Yes.
It didn't occur to me as something, you know, demonic then. But now I look at it and I'm like, wow, we were just inmates.
It's a prison hall. It's a prison hall. Yeah. That's what it is. It's a prison hall. No, but I'm with you.
But my experience was good. For me, it wasn't about the structure or whatever. I genuinely loved studying. I loved going to school. Like I know, roll your eyes all you like.
I don't like you. Like, why do we talk, fam? I swear to God. Tell the truth. Tell the truth. Did you bring an apple to your teacher ever? Tell the truth. You on live right now. You got witnesses. Tell the truth. Did you do it? Did you do it once?
But I had much worse.
But you brought baklava, didn't you? No. You brought baklava, didn't you? You didn't bring apple. You brought baklava, didn't you? You were like, hey, it's Eid. You know, we just finished Ramadan. Here's some baklava. You did it, didn't you? Tell the truth. Tell the truth.
Listen, I had my teacher who told me that I'm the daughter she never had. You know, I'm just saying.
We're going to get into your funny relationships with your weird, like, mildly pedophilic teachers. We're going to get into this. You and your, like, open-shirted... Yeah, we'll get into this. You and your open-shirted maths teacher. We're going to get into this. Don't start losing your mic over it. Look at you.
I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that.
The mention of the open-shirted dolphin necklace maths teacher. Look at you. Start losing your shit. All right, listen.
He thought it was all about the maths. It was just the numbers. It had nothing to do with him.
Like, you just looked at him one day and you went, did you know that 1 + 1 makes 2? I can't believe I just did that out loud.
Equals to both of us.
Yo, seriously, we need to edit some shit in this post. I'm tired. Edit this. We need to cut some things in post. Like, we can't. All right, anyway, the point is, education doesn't inherently have a reference to an open-shirted maths teacher with a golden chain. It doesn't. Strangely enough, there is no inherent reference to mildly pedophilic mathematics teachers in the definition of education. I grant you, in your mind, those two things are like the same. But in the world...
It's like a public shaming. I feel embarrassed.
Oh, what did you think was going to happen? I don't know what you thought. You came on my live. We started talking about lines and drawing lines and whatever else in society. And here you go going, I've got to be honest with you. I thought school was wonderful. I don't really know what you're talking about. All right, but now seriously, we can't do this.
But like, he thought it gets worse. It's not that I thought school was wonderful. I went to summer school.
All right, see, stop. Why are you doing this to yourself now? Why are you doing this to yourself, homie? Like, look at you.
Study trigonometry.
You know this is on the internet. Like, this is on the internet. This goes on the internet. So you get that, right? Like, I'm going to put this up afterwards, and then, like, you know, it's going to be posted up on YouTube. This goes on the internet. You're confessing here, right? So the weirdest confessional hall. All right, but listen, I'm messing with you. The point is, yes, it does need changing. And it has moved some degree from the original definition. That is to say, it has moved some degree from our original understanding of what education meant. And what I want to start off with is the idea that there was an original understanding of education. It wasn't always the way it currently is structured. That's not the case, as with the case with everything, right? So at some point in the course of history, somebody had to ask themselves the question, yo, what should a school look like?
Right, yeah.
Right? Like, somebody had to actually ask that question, like, because there weren't schools. Like, what do you mean? So when you went, what should a school look like? It was like, oh, damn, I don't actually know. What do we do? How should it look? How do you set this up? So this was a thing. It's a live debate towards the end of the Enlightenment era, but we get to this. The point is, if you look at, as we usually do, if you look at the definition of the term, right? So we go to the etymology, the definition of the term like we usually do. Education, the concept, right? We're just talking about education coming from educare and educere in Latin. Educare, I know, look at that. Look how quickly that just came off. Like, it was like, oh my God. It's like, look what he can do. Now, fam, there's mad languages off his tongue. Mad.
Okay, and what's the difference?
I don't know. Just sounds great. I don't...
Mate, if I'm not here to check on you, you just talk any old, you know.
Yeah, but the difference is,
I'm
if
trying
you
to
were
not
here,
swear.
it would sound fire. You know what I'm saying? I would just kick mad bars and end the seminar. No one would have a clue what I just said, but it would sound great. You know what I'm saying? And then we can make an album out of like all of these weird ass fucked up lectures. And then there you go. And we just put it to an instrumental of like Mobb Deep or on it to some shit like that. And there you go. Like, I got nothing to tell you.
Edusare and
Educare, educere, right? Educare, educere. So in the one case, you're talking about the focus is on the mental, and in the other case, the focus is on the physical. That's the only distinction between.
Oh, okay.
But
yeah.
education is taken as a combination of the two things, whereby the notion is, in both cases, the reference is to the idea of bringing out or bringing up, right? So to bring out or to lead forth, right? That idea. So the concept is that you're bringing something out of somebody, which means, which is important. I just want to know exactly. I agree with you, but it's important for us to pay attention to what's implied in this. If you're bringing something out of somebody, the implication is it was already there, right?
Yeah.
All right. I just want to make sure that we're clear on that. That's important. Cool. The same thing is true with the name of, I don't know, what's the name of that company? There's this really cool educational company. They teach people build tutors. So those motherfuckers are fly. Listen, let me tell you something about TBT. These motherfuckers. No, I'm joking.
No, but for real, build on.
I got to do my own promotion out here, fam. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
The definition, the etymological definition. You have the word build, B-I-L-D, which translates to image, or image in the sense of sign or reproduction. So not image as such, but image in the sense of a reproduction. Bildung then means the reproduction of a pre-given form. In the etymological definition, right? So not in the broad definition. The actual definition today just means education in German. That's just the word they use, fucking education. But the etymological definition is this notion of the reproduction of a pre-given form. So what do you do? In the case of Bildung, you're recreating or you're flourishing, you're developing what already exists. So you have this overlap in the original definition, the etymological definition of education, and the etymological definition of Bildung, the idea that you're bringing out what is already there. Now. Now, then fast forward a couple hundred years, and then we get to, well, let me just give you this nice summary of what we mean by Bildung, right? There's this guy called Walter Bauer. There's this nice little quote, right? So he says, the Bildung of enlightened man, it's the enlightened man of the Enlightenment era. The Bildung of enlightened man aimed at a free and harmonious unfolding of his potential and powers. In contrast to utilitarian ideas of the early Enlightenment era, the functionalist reduction of Bildung to what is of use to society was rejected. You see what I'm saying? So Bildung, as it's understood with reference to the late Enlightenment man, and as it maintains itself in some parts of Europe, we don't do it here, but as it maintains itself in some parts of Europe, the concept there was this harmonious unfolding of potential and power. That is to say that there is potential and power pre-given inside or implicit in your nature as such, and then the idea is that we help unfold this. We don't give you it.
I like it.
That's the idea. Now, the converse idea, at the point of the Enlightenment, this is what's really interesting. At the point of the Enlightenment, a debate erupts where, okay, now that we have rationalism and, you know, Descartes and all that kind of bullshit that we talked about a couple of weeks back, and if you all forgotten, go the fuck back and watch it. But after we're done here, don't fuck up my seminar. Now, listen, what I'm saying is, you know, it's crazy because I actually teach like this. The point is, I don't know how I don't get like, I don't get call the police. I don't get in trouble with like students. I don't know. But in any case, the point is, so at the peak of the Enlightenment era, so after Descartes and what have you, and the rise of rationalism as a method of understanding the universe, you had this notion of specialization. The notion of specialization was that previously a scientist would also have to double as a theologian and a philosopher. Because you
Okay.
had to do all these things because they were kind of considered to be the same thing, primarily because the field of understanding was dictated and dominated by the church. So in order for you to be a scientist, it had to fall under your understanding of theology. You still
Okay. Yep.
your science had to fit in with the understanding of God, otherwise it's not real. As rationalism develops, you have the Copernican Revolution, right? So Copernicus realizes that, oh shit, we're not the center of the universe or the galaxy. The sun is actually the center of the galaxy. We just spin around that bitch. When he realized that, the church went nuts. They're like, I'm not the center of the universe. What the fuck does that mean? Nothing, idiot, nothing. Relax. Like, why is your sense of God so fragile? Relax. You had to be the middle of the fucking universe for God to exist? And when they said that you weren't, you were like, does that mean God doesn't exist? No, it just means you're not the center of the universe. Would you chill? Fuck me. So narcissistic. Anyway, you see why I didn't live at that time? Like, this is why.
Another story, yeah.
Mad stories, bro. I've got mad stories. Education's fucked up. The point is, so you get this development and this specialization, and that what that meant was that people started to study science or study mathematics almost independently of theology, almost independently of all the other areas. You would specialize.
Okay.
What that meant was a discipline was being developed. Right, so you had a methodology and a discipline. So it went to have developed the discipline of mathematics was quite distinct now from what mathematics had previously been because it had incorporated theology, philosophy, and so on and so forth. So now you're just developing this distinct discipline of mathematics, right? So at this stage, once you start developing these disciplines, the question arises as to whether or not we should try to coalesce all of these different disciplines under one roof, call it a school, and deliver that information somehow.
Okay.
Because up to this point, sorry, I got really Arab there for a second. Hold up. I need to stop. Pause. We need to pull that back a minute. Let's just rewind. Because I know you're caught that. But for anybody who knows Arab, I literally just went, wallahi. Just like, no, y'all didn't see it. But I just went, because. It's like, no, wallahi. That just happened. I'm just saying. I can call myself out on that shit. I just went, wallah. Anyway, so, because I'm going to put on a whole accent now for the next 20 minutes. This is going to be really hard to break. This is going to be real hard to break.
Like a stereotypical Arab for the
Wallah, I tell you what, I will tell you, I will not have any stereotype if you buy 4 camel. 4. Wallah, 4. Okay, yalla. 3 and a goat. See, no stereotypes. None. We ain't racist. Ain't no stereotypes in here at all. What are you talking about? Relax, people, relax. Relax. It's a joke. Relax. I'm an Arab. Would you calm the fuck down? The point is, I say that. Nobody gives a fuck. I say it. No one's like, why now?
Yeah.
But it's just, just in case. The point is, so you arrive at this stage where that question arises as to whether or not that should be the case. Now, the problem is twofold. One, how do we do that? And 2, there's competition. The competition is that there are forms of education that exist in society. They're just not in this kind of like weird structure. So what you have is particular disciplines that people teach. So there's such things as moral education, and you have the lady or the teacher of the house that would be hired by the family, and they live in that house and they educate the children according to whatever else, and they give you a moral education and they give you an etiquette education, all that kind of bullshit. That was a thing you could do. You could also study in the discipline of war, for example, and go on to become an officer and a general in the military. You didn't have to become a grunt. That was a thing that you could study. That was something you could do. There were like loads of other little disciplines like this, in addition to the principle of apprenticeships, which is basically how society functioned up until that point, right? So you find a trade that you kind of feel like you can do well in, apprentice there for a little minute, and then that's it. That's your trade. Cool. So that was the competition. That's problem number 2. How do we do this is problem number 1. And problem number 2 is, well, we've got all of this competition. Cool. So it's where it starts to get really fucking interesting. This is where it starts to get really interesting. What ends up happening is you have this debate. These 2 different conceptions. Don't look at me like that. These 2 conceptions.
I was like, pause.
Okay, you have these 2 conceptions of education. And a debate arises. The debate is centered mostly in Scandinavia and Northern Europe, because at the time that was the center of like enlightened thinking. But in any case, the point is, so this debate breaks out, and there are different philosophers and thinkers on either side of the debate. Utilitarians mostly on one side, what are now considered continental kind of enlightenment thinkers on the other side. But in any case, the key figure in this, for my purposes or for our purposes here today, is a guy called Wilhelm von Humboldt. Wilhelm von Humboldt, he's a weirdo, but we'll talk about him in any case in a second. He has a nice little, I'll introduce him to you in a second. But the point is, you have this kind of debate that arises. And the debate is, well, on the one hand, there's a conception of students and education. So students are conceived in such a way that they're seen as a vessel.
Uh-huh.
Because the word they use is vessel.
All right. Yeah.
Look at you. See, I love education. I love being a vessel. Listen, look at you. All right, so the point is, so they
you pour things into me.
Yes, they conceive of, all right, pause. You conceive of, I didn't see post-production, edit point. You conceive of students as a vessel, and the idea is you fill them with information, right? So you just pour the information into each student, and you pass them along, almost like a conveyor. You know what I'm saying? Student comes along, empty vessel, you fill that vessel with information, because apparently the student doesn't have any information, and then you pass them along. Now, I know, it's great, right? It's a really sexy understanding of education. It's brilliant. Stop it.
Yeah.
Now, the other conception of education, the competing conception of education, was one where they conceived of students as it were, on a journey, walking down a path, right? And the tutor or the teacher or the educator's job would be to guide them along that path. That's to say, to make sure they don't fall off it, or to make sure they don't hurt themselves in the process. But how they walk it, how they navigate that path, and the pace at which they do it, the direction, all that kind of stuff is kind of up to them. You kind of let them figure it as they go, and your job is to make sure they don't fall off on either side and encourage them forward. That's kind of the whole role. That's the idea. And they will discover education as they go. Now, the implication in either case is that, with respect to the former, students are only have the intuitive capacity to take in information but have no understanding whatsoever before that. So you have to provide them with all of their understanding. They just have the capacity to take it. On the other hand, students already have the capacity to take the understanding and already have the capacity to understand. So they can go ahead and just search and figure things out themselves. Right? So.
I mean, isn't it, they're children. So to some extent, they're empty vessels. I mean,
Yeah, you are so hard.
Like whether it's a school system, whatever, someone has to teach you. You don't grow up knowing 1 + 1 is 2. You're taught that.
But that's different. There's a difference between. So here's the distinction that I want to make sure that we're absolutely clear about. In one case, you're delivering. We're going to get into this in a second, but in one case, it's the idea that you're delivering static data or static information. So you are a static authority that happens to be the locus or the point of origin for that information, and then you're just delivering static compartmentalized data to another individual and then move on. Now, they have the information. I don't know that they've learned anything.
Oh, sure. Okay, yeah. I've just assumed a step.
See how I got mad Arab there? Did it again, said Allah. Wallah.
Well, again, okay. And then in the second part then, isn't there an assumption that the student knows something or they have something to contribute, which you then guide?
Yeah, they do.
What about, that's an assumption. What about, not everybody has that. And I'm not being mean.
No, listen, no, I agree with you. No, I agree with you. And we'll get to it. I agree with you in principle. The idea is that it's not, in the sense that it's not necessarily the case that every single student you're going to meet or every student that exists happens to be just bubbling with fucking creativity and wonderful ideas and things they want to do. If only you would remove these institutions, they'd be so fucking creative. No, I agree with you. Most kids want to smash shit, kick their nose and burn somebody's hair. I agree. Kids are fucking nuts. I'm not listen, I've been doing this mad years. Can you tell?
Yeah.
Give me a minute.
You're a little tired.
Yeah, give me a second. Hold on. Fucking hell. All right. Okay. Right. So as I was saying, the point is, just to take a second, bro. I've been doing this mad years.
You need that. You need it.
No, we're 10 weeks in. God damn it. Anyway, the point is, what I'm saying is, no, I agree with you. In principle, that's the case. That not every single student is going to be bubbling with creativity. Nevertheless, that doesn't mean that every single student doesn't have a contribution. Their contributions will just be different. So some students are not inclined academically, but that doesn't mean they're not inclined to understanding. They're just inclined to understanding according to a different set of circumstances. As an educator, your job is to figure out what that is, and then there you go do it. So let me give you this. So he says this. So this is his side of the debate where you're on a path and you're on a journey and all that kind of fancy, lovely bullshit. So he says, because I love this quote, to be fair. I don't know why I'm shitting on it, but I actually really like this quote. He says that whatever does not spring from a man's free choice or from one's free choice, this is really sexist period. But the point is, sexist period. What are you talking about?
It still is, mate.
Yeah, exactly. What are you talking about? Exactly. So, whatever doesn't spring from a person's free choice. Did I just...
Mate, I'm going to be doing so much editing in this one.
I know, but now I realize that there is editing. I'm like, well, fuck it then. The point is, whatever does not spring from one's free choice, or is only the result of instruction and guidance, does not enter into their very being, but remains alien to their true nature. It is not performed with truly human energies, but merely with a mechanical exactness. And if one acts in a mechanical way, reacting to external demands or instruction, rather than in ways determined by their own interests, energies, and power, we may admire what they do, but despise what they are.
I like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, I should have told everybody to turn me down for a second before I did the gunshot, but I don't know what to tell you.
I like that. I mean, I like that concept. You know, me being a good student.
Oh God.
You know.
Oh God.
You know, like, cause seriously, like, all cheese aside, like, because
Can you do that? Is that possible? Can you put cheese aside?
Listen.
You know, you're wearing cheddar colors right now. I'm just saying.
Mate, I'm matching your hat.
What hat?
You'll find.
What are you doing? I'm bald.
Fitted.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No. But like, no, genuinely, those who have it within themselves, the wherewithal, the interest in education, that kind of model is great, right? Because, like, guide me. I've got like the Humboldt
model, Humboldt's model.
Yeah.
And for those who aren't academically inclined, it can be difficult. But the reason that's the case is not because the principle doesn't work. The reason it's the case is because what's interesting is Descartes agreed with von Humboldt on this. Descartes, who I spent the whole of last week shitting all over, agreed with von Humboldt on this. Because Descartes was also a rational Enlightenment, whatever, thinker, and he felt like you should just free people to think rationally and da-da-da-da. The difference was in this, the way they summed it up was the difference in the conception between whether whether education should be geared towards creating a good citizen or a good human. That's the difference.
I like that.
And in the case of the utilitarian conception, the idea was to create a good citizen, somebody who would function in this society. In the case of Bildung, it's to create a good human. That's to say, somebody who would function in society.
I like that.
Not this one, in one.
I have one other question. Isn't there like a sense of elitism?
Ooh, yes.
About this model?
About the Bildung model?
About the Bildung model.
Yeah, 1,000%. 1,000%. No,
so
because
it feels to me like the rich guys were going to be like, oh, I have ideas, and then they get guided.
No, of course.
And then everybody else.
Fam. Listen, I'm not disrespecting Peckham. Peckham's my home. Peckham's my hood. Peckham's where I come from. Peckham's like Peckham one up. Like, I'm always on my Peckham. But I know full well if you had a Bildung style education in Warwick Park School, we would have fucked shit up. Like, I would have busted or broken something. Just for shits and giggles. What are you talking about?
Mate,
like, just for fun.
You did fuck shit up. I might remind you.
Yeah, but it kind of had it.
We went to the same school. I went to my school. I left such a great record. Everybody loved us. We were in the papers for great scores. And then his dad goes in, fucks the whole thing up. You know? Like, the school gets destroyed, teachers get punched. It was a disaster.
What up, though?
Fucked shit up.
What up, though? And then hold up. And you know the best part about it is? Fuck shit up. Came out with a PhD. What up, though? Came out with a PhD. Yeah, like what?
Okay.
I'm gonna shut up.
School. I like the idealism of the Bildung.
Yeah.
What's so bad about schools?
Don't do that. Don't do that. See, why are you pressing buttons on me?
Because like if the Bildung is like it's for the elites. I will venture. I'll say that it's for the elites.
It is.
Schools to me is for everybody else.
No, it's not.
It does No,
but it is and it isn't. Let me explain. It's for them in the sense that this
What's so wrong with it?
No, it's for them in the sense that this is where you put them. It's not for them in the sense that it benefits them. It's for them in the sense that the slaughterhouse is for the cows, right? The slaughterhouse is not for people, it's for the cows. But that doesn't mean it's for the cows.
What a comparison.
It's not really helpful to the cow. You know what I mean? Like, it's for the cow. But that's not what I mean. I'm not really helping the cow any. I'm just going to put it in there and see what happens. Anybody want some burgers? I'm just saying.
Oh, man.
listen, I'm not declaring an opinion on veganism here. Like, relax, everybody chill the fuck out. So what I'm saying is this. I agree with you, in principle it is elitist, but it's elitist only because in Descartes, and this is where I was criticizing Descartes, and von Humboldt's conceptions of education and the student, there's a fundamental mistake, which is to say, as in that quote that I read out to you a moment ago, you notice that the insistence is on this notion of this inherently creative nature in every individual human being. That is to say, if I have a preconceived notion of what the human is, then, wallah, then...
I know you're becoming very Arab today. Like, I don't know what's happened to you.
Happening. I don't know what happened.
Ramadan finished, you know? Like, I don't know.
I just want... I'm reliving, fam. I'm reliving, man. You know what I'm saying? I'm a little nostalgic for fasting, man. The point is, things are better when I want to eat, you know, I want to tell you. But the point is, the shit, I lost my point. What the fuck was I saying? I don't know. Something.
Yeah, we were saying that.
In either conception, the problem is that this insistence on the existence of an I. That's to say, the preconceived understanding of what the I is. And in the build-on construction, the preconceived understanding of the I is this kind of like creative character. But isn't necessarily always the case, like you say. Like sometimes I'm not creative. Sometimes I'm not even inclined towards creativity. Some kids are like scribes, man. Like scribes is a thing. Some people don't want to do anything else. Like some people don't want to study. Some people, yeah, it differs. This insistence on the I and what I think the I is does shift a burden onto the student. It means that a student now has to live up to that, and it's difficult to do. So it is elitist in that conception of it. What I'm suggesting is we don't need to maintain that. Like we can throw that out without losing very much. It's not throwing the baby out with the bathwater.
All right. Well, one last question. Then you also said that the build-on method aims to create better humans as opposed to better citizens.
Yeah.
Aren't they the same?
No. Why are they saying?
You tell me.
Fam, don't do this to me when we started off this conversation about like George Floyd and what's going on. Don't tell me that there were humans before there were states.
Oh, because citizen is a social construct.
Citizen means that you're a member of a state.
Yes.
There's no citizen before a state. What are you a citizen of? You need a state in order to have a citizen. So if I'm a citizen, then I'm a functioning member of, in some respect, I'm a functioning member of a state.
Right.
If I'm a human, I'm a fucking human. What are you talking about? Like I'm wherever the fuck I am, whatever. And wherever I go, I will be a functioning member of that state because I'm a human being. Like that's not an issue. More to the point, when the state changes, I won't have such an issue with this. Because the state changes.
Yeah, sure.
And if it happens that the state changes in my lifetime, God, he's hoping. But if it happens that the state changes, I'm fucking motherfucker, we've been praying for this shit. But if it happens that the state changes in the course of my lifetime, then it will be beneficial to me to be able to function without dependence on its institution. But if I've been raised in such a way that my entire framework for reality has been dictated by the institution that's created that in order for me to function within that society, what do I do when it collapses? It's just bars out here. It's bars in every direction. The kind of fire, like, you know what I'm saying? It's almost offensive. Oh, my days.
Okay, so you said let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater.
I'm saying it wouldn't be an instance of doing that, right? I'm saying it wouldn't be an instance of doing that because all we're talking about is getting rid of this notion of the I.
Okay,
we're just ejecting the notion of the I. And all we're talking about is education for education's sake, like an understanding of self and your relationship to education, your relationship to the world that's not presupposed on a preconceived I. Then you live up to, and now maybe it doesn't always work out, and whatever else, that kind of bullshit. But now, the key point is that this didn't win out, as we know, right? So that build-on conception of education didn't win. That's not what we ended up. And the reason for this is they lost out to the second problem. The second problem being the competition. The first problem being, how do we do this? The second problem was that they lost out to the competition. The build-on conception of education lost out to the competition. The competition was all of these other formulations and structures of delivering education that were, and this is the most important point, that were built on authority. That was the primary kind of like function. So that moral education, whatever else, your apprenticeships, it was built on an authoritative structure. The build-on method or the build-on model lost out at the time because the concept of schooling, which was still appealing, was reformulated in such a way so that it contained within it the structures of authority and power.
Mm-hmm.
So school, in that sense, school only becomes the institution we understand it as today. Let's say the bridge between the family and work. So the bridge between leaving your family home and becoming a member of society, working, what have you. School only becomes the institution, that particular institution, once sufficient power and control are coalesced in the architecture and social order, like of the school. Beating out competition from like pastoral teaching, moral education, the art of war, etc., all that other kind of like stuff. Its success is not, in that sense, the success is not in the delivery of education as such, but the imposition of pedagogical control. That's what it is. That's why it's successful.
I mean, if you had to educate the masses, that's how you would do it, right? Like operationally, it's sound. How else were you going to do it? Like
I agree with you. I agree with you. But this is what the primary question of the Bildung method was: is this an operational issue?
Okay.
Because it doesn't seem to
where
be.
my mind went.
I know where your fucking mind went. I know. You're the only one that sits there and plays Sims and then restarts it when the goddamn people have too much activity. I know.
I mean, people, they just destroy everything.
I understand. And I know what you're saying. But no, listen, you're right in the sense that, yes, this is how one would deliver it en masse operationally in respect of logistics. But if you do it, if that's what you're doing, you're sacrificing education.
Okay, fair.
In order to, I don't know now, just house children. But
yeah, that's true.
That's ultimately what it is. So, Michel Foucault. Look how I just spit like philosophers' names out here. One of my favorite philosophers of all time. He's part of the reason why I'm bald. The other reason why I'm bald is your fault, but we'll get into that one day. We'll talk about it one day. We'll talk about it one day. You won't ever live it down until my hair comes back, and it ain't ever come back since. So I'm just saying, we will talk about this one day. The crime.
To save this story because I will cry.
The historical crime that was committed upon my hair and my scalp will not be forgotten. It will not be. My hair follicles were excluded from their home without right. I'm just saying. I demand my people have the right to return. They haven't come back since. I don't even know where they are. I don't know what's going on. There's a whole hair diaspora.
Foucault!
Yeah, Michel Foucault is a guy, right? And the thing is, he had a bald head. And he happened to also teach philosophy. Look at all the kind of like the parallels. It's crazy. The point is, no, what I'm talking about is for Michel Foucault, he summed this up really, really nicely. And I mentioned Foucault because it's a much more modern philosopher. So Michel Foucault is writing in the 1970s, early 1980s. He passed away way too young. But the point is, he observes this with respect to schools in particular. So he says schools serve the same functions as prisons and mental institutions. Their job is to define, classify, control, and regulate people. We're not delivering education. What I'm trying to do is exactly what you said. Operationally speaking, I'm not delivering education. I'm trying to define, classify, control, and regulate you.
Yeah.
That's not education. So invariably, when we go to school and we have that difficult experience of it, and we all tell ourselves it feels like it's a prison, even though technically it isn't a prison, even though it actually is a prison, but that's something else. The point is, so when we realize that feeling and we have that sense of like, I hate this, or this sucks, or why am I not getting it, or why is it a struggle? But you're blamed for it yourself because, well, the system is as the system is. Your job is to acquiesce to it. Like your job is to bend to it, because the function here is really not education. If the function were education, I'd be much more interested in your obstacles to learning than I currently am. Like as a school, you see what I'm saying? Like if a school were to encounter a student who had some obstacle to learning according to the method that they had previously been delivering, then an educator would inherently or intuitively be intrigued by what your obstacles are. Because my job is to educate you. That's my role. That's what I'm trying to do. If there's a block, I've got to figure out what that is. But under this structure, if there's a structure, a preset, pre-given formula, and I'm not here really to educate you, I'm here to make sure that you get regulated the way you need to be regulated, then the idea is very simple. You have to acquiesce to these terms. So it even comes down to, Michel Foucault did this really, really interesting analysis of the architecture. I mentioned the architecture previously for good reason. He does this analysis of the architecture of schools. Mm-hmm. And what he finds, and when I say analysis, I don't mean he stared at mad schools and went, interesting. I mean, he actually looked this shit up. Yeah, I know. I hate when people do that. Like, did you look it up? And they were like, nah, you know what I'm saying? I thought about it. No, you didn't. You went, came up with an opinion and then just told everybody. Stop it. really, like, stop it. You got to respect, like, academia is a thing, fam. Like, it takes time to learn shit. Relax. But anyway, so what he did is in
Maybe
his
education
analysis.
needs to change, he said.
Uh,
Sorry, I feel like I'm going to be buried this week. Quite literally.
hold on, I just got to text somebody. I'll be right back. I'm going to just text somebody. You know what I'm saying? Don't, like, yo, you crazy. But the point is, so what he observes, what he finds is that in responding to that fundamental question, how do we construct schools? What he discovered was that the people who had intended to physically build the schools inquired after prison architects.
No way.
No, literally prison architects. Literally speaking. So, like, your school feels like a prison because it's one. That's why. Because it was designed by the prison architects. They look the same for a very good fucking reason. They were built by the same people. They're supposed to look the same. It's not like a coincidence of society. Like, ooh, look at these authority structures and power. Look how interesting that they're the same. It's not interesting that they're the same. It's not a mystical coincidence, motherfucker. They did it on purpose. It's supposed to look like a prison. That's the idea.
Why?
Because I'm trying to achieve the same end. Control.
That's terrible.
I'm trying to achieve the same end. It's the same. I'm trying to structure. Look, when I send a prisoner to prison, why am I sending him to prison? In part to remove him from society, right?
Yeah.
That's the punishment that they're serving. But in part, the argument about prison that we all know is bullshit. But the argument about prison is that it's supposed to rehabilitate them. Because if you've been removed from society, you remove yourself from the influences and God knows whatever else and all the other things that made you do that. And there's supposed to be programs in prison that get you out and figure you out and all that kind of shit. It's supposed to be, to some degree, rehabilitatory. Now, we know that's bullshit. We know it doesn't actually work. But we know it with respect to prisons. We're observing it with respect to schools. It is also true with respect to schools. It doesn't fucking work. Clearly. We know this. But it's because it was built to do the same job. We send a prisoner to prison in order to rehab him. We send a child to school effectively in order to rehab them. That's what you're doing. It's not education. It's rehab. You're just reconstructing them in order for them to fit in that functional society. That's it.
But sometimes it works.
No, sometimes the student works.
Ah. Nice.
Yeah, you see, here's the thing. I've done this before. Here's the thing. I've done this before.
Okay.
No. What I'm saying is, I'm messing with you. What I'm saying is that, yeah, so the difference is sometimes, yes, you're right. Sometimes the student works. So sometimes you bump into a student with such overwhelming abilities or such overwhelming capacity for learning or such a desire to learn that they will excel those circumstances despite the situation.
Okay.
You're an example. Like, you're an example. We both went to the same school. You're an example. I went to that school. I'm an example. Like, there weren't that many PhDs that came out of Warwick Park School. In fact, I remember being sat down in Warwick Park School being told that, yo, listen, 30% of you will end up in jail. 30% of you will end up, like, dead or some shit. And the rest of you will get, like, C grades and B grades.
Mate,
and they told
us the same stats.
To my face. And they were like, and to be honest with you, I don't give a fuck about the 60% of you that ain't gonna make it. Because that's not what I'm here for.
Yeah.
Either you adjust and you acquiesce to the system, or fuck you. Why? Because there's another system that will take care of you anyway. I'm either got you in this housing system in school, or I've got you in that housing system in prison. One way or the other, you're being housed by the state. Don't make no difference to me.
Oh my God, it really is broken.
You see the attitude?
I didn't like when I was studying. I didn't pay attention because I was studying, but I didn't pay attention.
Look at you. I know. And I know what you were paying attention to. Don't say I didn't pay attention. What you were paying attention to, I understand, right? So Foucault adds to this. He says later on, is it therefore surprising that prisons resemble factories, schools, barracks, hospitals, which all resemble prisons? Like, that's not a surprise. You shouldn't be surprised by this. They're all intended to do the same thing. It's the same state structure. They're designed to do the same thing. So when you go to school and you feel like you're in prison, there's a good fucking reason. Because you're in prison. The problem is, all of this is the case. And we can go into this in, like, crazy detail, but we've only got a few minutes left. And what I want to do is explain what the fuck we can do about this.
Solutions.
Yeah, I mean, we've only got a few minutes, and we're going to come back in part 2 and we can kick it a little bit more. But there are things that we can do about this, right? Which is to say that, putting aside how we got here and why all this is so fucked up, and we can talk all day long about how school's fucked up. I've got mad information up the wazoo about this stuff all day. Like, I went to school and I fucking hated it. We got stories all day, all that kind of shit. But what I want to get at is the idea that We don't necessarily need them.
Them who?
The authority and the structure, the institutions. We don't need them. They're not, the myth, that's to say, the myth that makes the school function is the idea that without it, you're not getting an education. The truth is that everybody who goes through that school system realizes that with it, you're not getting an education.
That's true.
Everybody who goes to school realizes this. I didn't come here to really get an education. This is not what you guys are providing. That's not what you're giving us detentions left, right, and center, all that kind of bullshit. That ain't educating nobody. You discover this having gone through it. The myth is if you don't go through it, you won't get educated. The joke is that if you go through and discover what the fucking bullshit is, you're like, oh, no, it was all a lie, which is what the fuck I did. And I come out the other side and I'm telling everybody, yo, there's some bullshit back there. Because, like, I just did that. Don't do that. Like, you know that Ace Ventura?
Do not go in there. Woo!
That whole, like, for real, I just went there. I did mad educational institutions. And I'm telling you now, woo! Y'all want to be in there. You don't, you do not want to, forget it. Don't do that. But that's what I'm saying. The point is, the solutions aren't actually that complicated because the structures that we require in order for us to be educated otherwise are already there. So we can have an anarchic or an anarcho-syndicalist type educational structure. Never mind all the fancy words. All I'm saying is that we can do this ourselves. Like, it's not that complicated. We can employ their structure for our own ends. Let's say I could still, like when you were telling me this the other day, we can still apply to take the GCSE whenever I want to take it. I can still apply to take the A-levels whenever I want to take them. I can still apply to do a PhD whenever I want to do it. I don't actually need you motherfuckers. I remember when I was doing my PhD and I figured out how much it was going to cost me to do the motherfucking thing. I ended up paying, I don't know how many £1,000s for that bullshit. £12,000 for my PhD. Cool. I paid 12. Actually, it was more than that, but never mind. But I 12.
Only for them to tell you how crap you are, like.
Right. And the thing is about it is that, like, I feel like the whole point of PhD, of higher education, is for me to go and research and do my own work. So what the fuck am I paying you for?
Sure.
Like, other than for us to have a meeting once every couple of weeks where you just shit all over my life and tell me I'm too much of an Arab to do philosophy, which happened. Yeah, I'm gonna air that motherfucker out. Too Arab to do philosophy with a word. I'm gonna air that motherfucker out. But in any case. So what I'm saying is, what am I really paying you for? Because I can do this myself, and by and large, I'm doing this myself. And then you understand, what I'm paying you for is the accreditation. Because because the myth, you've pinned down the institutions, and what you've said is, we own this shit, we tell you what to do, and we decide whether or not you have an education, so you need my license. Cool, I could pay you for the license, though. I don't need to sit in your bullshit all day long. I could just do my shit, fuck your license. I did this in my second secondary school. In my second secondary school, real quick story, I got kicked out of every class. Every class. Seriously. Partly because I'm an arsehole, but partly because fuck these people. And partly because, remember those lines I was telling you about that we drew earlier on? Remember those lines I was talking about? Yeah, I drew
partly because you were brown and we were in white Hastings.
Yeah, I drew some fucking lines back then. I was like, nah, I ain't taking that shit. So, like, I got kicked out of every class. But in any case, the point is, what I do, I got kicked out of every class, but I looked around at the school and was like, you guys realize you built an entire space that would otherwise be dedicated to cold, hard study if it weren't for the fact that you guys are dickheads. So I went to the library and did cold, hard study every fucking day. Because the strange thing was, the textbooks are in the library.
Yeah.
And the stranger thing was, the kids are all in the classroom, no one's in the library. So I was in the library, reading the textbook. And you know what I did? They already gave me a schedule that told me when to study what. Those were the classes I was supposed to be in. So you know what I did? I went and studied those things according to that schedule. And guess what happened? I got my GCSEs. Like, what the fuck, man? You see what I'm saying? Like, we don't need you. What we need are motherfuckers who can facilitate this. But that's what we're here for.
Sure.
That's what Open 7 is.
And so it comes round.
How it loops around. You think the rounded head is for nothing, fam. It's all.
I always think you're just talking, in like.
It's all, fam. The rounded head.
But there's reason and meaning, and like it comes round.
Well, we could talk about this. We could talk about this all day long about the history of school and God knows whatever else and how fucked up about it is and all that. We can kick that all day. I'm down to have that conversation. But all I'm really trying to get at, in plain and simple language, and we'll talk more about it in part 2, but in plain and simple language, is that we don't necessarily need them anymore. It's not required.
Okay, I like this.
And if the last 2 months have proved anything, we definitely don't need it. These motherfuckers have been telling us that we could be educated from home all day long. So I'd be like, all right, we could just stay at home then. But you told me I could be educated from home all day long, so I'm gonna just stay at home all day long. What are you talking about?
Definitely a new era. Like, we are beginning to ask those questions that we dared not ask before.
What I'm saying is, I'm gonna end here, and I'm gonna see you guys.
Okay.
What I'm saying is, we don't need to go back. We don't need to go back. That's what I'm saying. Fuck the old normal. We don't need to go back. You know what I'm saying? We changed something. It's all done. It's dusted. They cut us out. Now we cut them out. We don't need to go back.
I like it.
I'm gonna see you on 15 seconds. Part
Okay.
2. We've got Missy's movies. I'm gonna see you. I'm gonna see you. What's up? It's cool.
I'm mad
It's cool.
excited. Can you tell?
Wrapped with attention. What the hell is wrong with you, man? Relax.
I'm like, solutions.
Relax, Sabisa. Okay, solutions. All right, solutions. So, I don't know. Do we kick the solutions first, or are we going to say movies? We kick the solutions. Look, it's real simple. Let me just tell you like this.
Solutions.
I'll tell you. I'll combine it with a story. Look how we're doing 2 things at once. All right, y'all, listen in. So we're going to do 2 things. It's like crazy out here, right? It's mayhem. All right, go check this out.
What do we call this? Solutions and story time.
I don't know. Solutions and stories. It's got mad like crazy out here. Now listen.
Okay, give it to me.
I had a student, right? I had a student who was a friend of mine who was a good kid, whatever, was hardworking. But like most of the kids that I used to teach, he had kind of like problems with authority, myself included. My motherfucker didn't like authority, so he responded poorly to it. Nevertheless, he had a particular incident with a particular teacher who had marked him out as the kind of kid who would be a troublemaker, and decided to be a little bit disproportionate in his like handing out punishments, right? So a certain situation where he felt offended because my man said something rude to him. I think he called him a dick or something like that. Some mild shit. But he felt offended by what he said to him, and as a consequence of feeling offended, he went and told the other teachers that he felt physically threatened, and then a case of being physically threatened it warrants exclusion, that he had already been
Oh man, it's a kid.
but he'd already been excluded previously, so exclusion a third time now means like permanent exclusion, some other bullshit. But the teacher knows all of this stuff, so what he wants to do is rope the motherfucker into this situation where they kind of had a back and forth. My man called him a dick because he's young and stupid, and then the teacher overreacts to it. And then the consequence of that overreaction is that you could permanently exclude the kid. Because my man just had it out for him. You see what I'm saying? Like, he was just in a position where he just wanted to kind of get him. Now, we know this is the problem with authority. Like, that's what that is. Because he is in a position of authority. So he can do that. Now, what I'm saying is we don't need that. I don't need an authority figure for me to learn from. It's not a prerequisite of fucking learning. Like, it's not a prerequisite of understanding and developing and learning for me to have an authority figure to deliver that to me. They become an authority figure by consequence of the fact that they happen to know something. They don't come at me like an authority. If you just come at me like an authority figure before you told me you know anything, homie, I'm gonna slap you. I grew up in Peckham too. Like, you can't. What are you doing? You're granted authority by me. You don't take it. I give you that authority because you happen to impress me because you're a fucking genius or some shit. You're supposed to be an expert. But not because you demanded it because you want to be an expert. That's different. You see what I'm saying? But in any case, the point I suggested to this kid was this solution. And this is the broad solution. Here's what I told him. We almost did it. I almost got myself in really deep trouble, to be fair. But I was like, yeah, no, we should do this. And it attaches to something else, actually. It does. I do want to mention this point in respect of, before we go into movies, apologies, but I do want to mention this in respect to another thing, back to what we were talking about at the outset of the seminar. But what I said to him was, all right, bet, listen, we don't need the school. If they want to exclude you, that doesn't mean you don't do your GCSEs. You're still going to do your GCSEs. And I'm going to educate the fuck out of you. But here's what we're going to do. We're going to go to your school. They excluded you, right? So you're not allowed in the school. I totally agree with that. Nobody wants to be in the school. But who the fuck wanted to be in the school? So here's what we do. Outside your school, there's a park. It's like literally outside his school. It's not the school grounds. It's outside school grounds, but it's a park. So here's what we're going to do. You are going to Snapchat and text and like Facebook and Instagram, all your friends, all of your homies. And you're going to tell all your friends at 2 o'clock, teach the lesson is outside the school. I'm going to be right there. And I'm going to you and all how many hundred of your little school friends, and we're going to have a lesson right outside the school. What the fuck is the school going to say? I didn't do nothing. I happened to be a passing by teacher. I just happened to be lecturing while I walked, and these little motherfuckers decided to listen. I don't know what to tell you. They must like what I'm rapping out here. Like, it's just what it is. I didn't do that. They turned two. They're still getting an education, so what the fuck are you mad at? Oh, I see. It's not your education.
I understand.
You can't say shit because I'm accredited like a motherfucker. Like, it's not like some random person who had like an interesting utopian idea decided to do something crazy. No, I'm educated like a motherfucker. I got qualifications up the wazoo, fam. I'm pretty sure I could out-qualify any of those motherfucking teachers in that school. I'll be like, homie, you want to just like recognize the levels over here? You need to pay a little respect. Because I read 1-2 more books than you did, homie. Let's not.
It feels to me like it's a Socratic way of teaching, isn't it? Like,
don't get Greek on me.
like, hey, come along, let's all sit together and learn.
But here's what I'm suggesting. So, one, what I meant was we could just not do this. We could just leave, right? We could just leave. But back then, it would require a proactive action. That's to say, he would have to text his friends and they would have to proactively leave.
Yeah.
Right now, we left already. We are all
exactly.
in permanent exclusion.
It's an opportunity.
We're all on permanent exclusion right now. All I'm saying is, I ain't going back.
Hey, I feel like, you know, NW songs like pulsing through me.
Listen. What I'm saying is, as far as I'm concerned, and I don't want to get into this, I really don't want to get into this. I'm not kind of like trying to kick or whatever else, but I'm not getting into this really deeply. But as far as I'm concerned, the you know, that sense of like hopelessness that we're feeling right now, given the circumstances, given that we've seen this 1,000 times before, given that we know how this usually plays out, given that we know that the state hasn't yet responded on a federal level, and when they do, that shit is going to be fucking nasty. We know this, because if it was nasty leading up to this, imagine what they're going to do when they think they have a fucking excuse. Like, okay, all of that we feel a way about, and all of the issues associated with that, because ultimately we know that a rebellion is a rebellion, and it's not attached to a strategy. Like, this is going to go to a certain point and kind of stop there. And I don't blame anybody for that. I'm not saying it's anybody's fault, and I'm not saying anybody should do otherwise. I'm just lamenting the fact that we've seen this tragedy play out 1,000,000 fucking times before, and we know how it's going to play out. But this is different in one respect. I don't think it's a fucking coincidence that you have a coronavirus, whatever else, pandemic. That means that everybody has to stay the fuck home for 2-3 months. And in that 2 or 3 months, the thing that it very, very clearly reveals is the state cannot function without you going to work. To the point that they will risk your life and tell you to go to work earlier than you should, because the economy matters more. If we know one thing, we know that all I needed to do was sit the fuck at home for 2 months, and y'all caved in.
They've said that. Do you remember, like, at the briefings that, you know, they said going back to school is an acceptable margin. I couldn't believe it.
See what I'm saying? But they need that. That's why they're bringing football back early. That's why they're sending you to school early.
Yeah.
But they need that because the economy is at risk. What I'm trying to get across here is you can stop the entire fucking system by sitting at home. We can sit at home. And the same thing goes for school. If I want to change that shit, guess what I'm going to do? Not come along. Oh, fuck yourself. I excluded myself. What? Me and all 10,000 of us. We ain't coming to school no more.
All right.
We ain't going to work no more neither, my G. I ain't doing this until you fix this shit. I ain't doing it no more, my G. I'm sick and tired of this bullshit. I ain't playing that game no more. We ain't doing it. I'm going to just sit right the fuck here. Because for the last 2 months, guess what I've been doing? Sitting right the fuck here. Guess what I'm going to do for the next 2 months? Sit right the fuck here. Now, we got demands. Now, we have issues. Y'all need to fix 1-2 things. Whether that's school or otherwise. And for the school, it's really simple. There are ways of doing this. Fam, you only need 10 students to sit around, get in touch with all of their friends. 10 students is enough to cover everybody on the mathematics of it. You get 10 students, go talk to all your friends, and you'll figure out demand. Like, figure out between y'all what you need. What does your school need? And I'm not talking about what every school should do, but what does your school need? What does your school require? Do you want to not wear uniforms anymore? That's a demand. Do you want to make sure that you've got a 4-day week instead of a 5-day week? That's a demand. Do you want to make sure that school don't start at 9 and finish at 4 on a fucking bell like I'm a Pavlovian dog, but starts when the fuck I say it does? That's a demand. These are demands, but you can make them. You just don't have any leverage if you're going to school all the time. If you're engaging, I've already won, fam. I don't need to negotiate with you. If you're already engaging with the game, you've won already. I've won already. I don't need you. But under these circumstances, we could just stay the fuck at home.
I'm excited.
And I'm not saying stay at home for the pandemic. I'm saying stay at home for the racism. I'm saying stay at home for the institutions. I'm saying stay at home for the collapse. I'm saying stay at home for the bullshit. I'm saying stay at home for the capitalism. I'm saying stay at home because fuck the system. I'm saying stay at home because we could all entertain each other all day long on Instagram and every other device that we got and organize something without these motherfuckers. I see people all day long being mad, like generous and being mad thoughtful, trying to find ways of delivering food to the old and the needy and trying to find ways to make sure everybody is fed and trying to find ways to share what little we have because the circumstances demand it. Fam, the circumstances demanded it before the fucking pandemic. Homelessness and poverty was not a thing after the pandemic. It was a fucking thing in the first place. Y'all just didn't pay attention to it until the pandemic started. Calm. I'm not criticizing anything. The pandemic started, we've all paid attention to it, and we've seen what the important information is as a result of that, which is to say the state will fucking cave if you stay the fuck at home. So all I'm saying is make use of the technology that they gave us, make use of the mistakes they made and allowed us to all talk to each other, set something up, organize ways to make sure that you're all fed, have your medicines and have everything you need, and stay the fuck at home. Fuck the system. We don't need them no more. We never did in the first place. But they win because we play. They win because we play. We all sit here feeling like there's no hope, and we all sit here feeling like it's all hopeless. And what do you really do if the whole system is broken and going to do everything else? And how do you fight a whole system? You don't fight it. Why are you fighting it? Don't play. I ain't playing. Homie, it's a shit game. I ain't playing no more. You know when you sit here playing Monopoly and the motherfucker who's controlling the money ain't doing it right? Yeah, Tadas, relax. I ain't playing no more. That's what I'm just not. Nah, fuck it. I ain't playing. We ain't playing no more. Khalas. It's over. Hashtag khalas. We ain't playing. Hashtag we ain't playing. Hashtag fuck you people. Hashtag khalas. Hashtag it's done.
It ain't. Hashtag it ain't funny no more.
Ain't funny no more. We done with the bullshit, fam. Like we done with the bullshit. I ain't playing. Like we're past playing, fam.
All right, so it's truly a new, possibly a new.
We all have the means, the resources, the wherewithal, and the ability to organize with each other, motherfucker. We're on Instagram and Facebook all day long. All we do is talk to each other. Find out what we need and organize it without them.
Okay.
Because we're the farmers. We're the police officers. We're the nurses and the doctors. What are you talking about? We are our own society. We don't need a state. Like, what's wrong with you? We're it. We are the state. It's just because we bought into the myth. The same way the students buy into the myth that you have to, in order to get an education, you have to come to this school. And then everybody who goes to that school realizes that's not where you go to get an education. And then the same myth is here. You have to buy into the myth of the state. That if you don't buy into the myth of the state, we're going to do it, bro, then you ain't ever going to succeed in life. No, fuck you, motherfucker. I ain't buying into the myth of the state no more. We all been struggling and suffering out here for long enough. I'm not buying your bullshit. We're staying at home, homie. I'm better off with my friends. I'm good with my homies. I got enough of a group on fucking Instagram and Facebook, and we all know enough people that we can organize each other if only we did it. We staying at home already, man. Fuck them. We're staying at home. Fuck all that noise. It's real simple. And yo, let me just kick this real quick to you. We only need 10% of us.
Yeah.
We only need 10% of us. I'm not saying there are people who are in situations who can't do this. There are people who are in circumstances who can't do this. But we only need 10%. You need 10% of the population to sit the fuck at home. It will cave the system.
I'm in.
And if I happen to be buried next week, y'all know exactly what happened. Because this is on live and the CIA are listening. So if something happens, if something happens and it's only Missy on the screen down there, and she'd be like, listen, guys, it's going to be an hour-long special of Missy's movies. I'm like, y'all know what happened.
Hey, I don't know. That'll be fun.
She got paid out because somebody likes education. She got paid off because somebody likes education. Got to do it, Rose, and now she brought into the system, and that's it. But no, man, listen, I'm just saying, I'm done with the bullshit, fam. Like, I really am. I really am. This has been the case since day one. Everybody's been saying it. Listen, rebellion means nothing without economic boycott. It's not difficult. It's not complicated. Rebellion means nothing without economic boycott. Let me tell you a quick story. I'll stop. I promise. I'll stop. You want to know what? All right. So racist historians argue that the African countries or Africa didn't have like kingdoms in the same way that Europe had kingdoms because they didn't have states.
Oh yeah.
Whatever. You know why they say that? It's because they say that the populations within these states migrated so often and to such a degree, it's really, really hard to manage to determine what the borders of these states were. So their thing was, so long as there's not a border, it's not a state. Bullshit. But anyway,
right.
And then they went Brexit. And the point is, bullshit. The point is, what I'm saying is that they're half right. They're half telling the truth. And what's the half they're telling the truth is that the populations did tend to move around quite a lot in large numbers. They did migrate from state to state on a regular basis. You know why they did this? Because the argument was, in African kingdoms, the logic amongst large portions of the population was when the king or the state becomes too tyrannical, I'm going to go over there.
I love it.
I'm going to just go over there.
I get it. Let's
go over there.
do this.
No, I'm going to go over there, though. I'm going to go over. Listen, you want this that badly, my G. It's yours. I know I only live 80, 90 odd years in the best of times. That's assuming I don't get diabetes or some other bullshit. I know that. So given that, I'm just trying to live those 80, 90 years correctly. You want to do this because you want tax and state and economy. All right, fam, go play your game. You really like Monopoly that hard. I've never met someone like you. But go play your Monopoly, do your thing, fam. I'm trying to live a good, healthy life with my peoples and other human beings who know they're mortal. We only spend so much time on this earth. I'm just trying to do it correctly, my G. You go do what the fuck you want to do. Like, go play.
I hear you.
You want to do that? Fam, go do that. You want to have taxes in a whole system with some bullshit and whatever else and fuck up the NHS? Go do your thing. Now, that's not really an option here because we can't go nowhere. It's a fucking island. But you know what we can do? Not go out no more. I don't have to go. What I'm saying is I don't have to play. I don't have to. I got to eat and we all need money and go to whatever else. It needs organization. It needs organization. We got to help each other out. But I swear to God, I'm sick and tired of saying this. Like, I need somebody with an energy who's like younger than me who could do this bullshit. Remember what Tupac said? I might not be the one that starts the revolution, but my verses, my bars might have the spark in it that does start that revolution. But I might not be that motherfucker. And I'm not Tupac. I definitely am not him. Like, that guy is a legend. I'm not him. But we could definitely, like, somebody do something. I'm sick and tired of the bullshit, homie. We could just stay the fuck at home. We on Instagram all day long and just asking each other what we doing and not trying to do nothing. I'm sick and tired. I'm going to stop. The rant is over. I'm stopping.
The rant is over. Listen, I'm down. I like it.
Yo,
so look,
movies. You've seen movies. What are movies like?
I've seen one or two movies, you know, like one or two, but I take anyone down who will dare to tell me otherwise. Mrs. Movies. So the movie I picked for today is kind of appropriate to, you know, what you were talking about, and the movie's called
terrified.
The Wave.
Oh God, I know this movie. I'm terrified now.
It's a great movie.
Kind of appropriate.
So it is kind of appropriate. It is like fuck the system, you know.
Yeah, a little bit.
In a kind of strange kind of way.
In a really kind of like weird Nazi kind of way, but yeah, I'm with you.
It's like it's got layers, yes. So the movie it's
like
based.
layers.
What I didn't know, it's actually based on a true event that happened in 1967 in California. So
I knew that.
Guy called. Yeah, I didn't. I was
that.
like, this can't be to America, really.
No. I knew that.
So the history teacher Ron James, who was trying to teach his students how easily actually people could be manipulated, because you know the common thing is people could be like, well, how could the people follow the Nazis, you know, how could they have been so duped? It would never happen to me.
Right.
And over the course of 5 days, literally 5 days doing this experiment with the students, they became fascists. And so this movie, so the context of it being a German movie, so this is The Wave, released in 2008, and it's based in Germany. So you see the layers there because, you know, of their history and German guilt and you know. So I kind of want some interaction, and everybody who's here could pitch in if they like. But this is so the main part of it. This is day one of this experiment, and the teacher, who is anarchy, you know, he's kind of opposing the standard way of teaching. He's like, no, there's got to be a different way of teaching. So he poses 3 questions to his students.
Was ist denn die Grundvoraussetzung für ein autokratisches System? Dennis?
Eine Ideologie.
Ja, was noch?
Kontrolle.
Überwachung.
Ihr denkt mir schon ein bisschen zu weit.
Unzufriedenheit.
Interessant. Was ist denn noch wichtig in einer Diktatur?
Disziplin, Herr Wenger.
Sehr gut, Tim. Macht durch Disziplin. Welche sozialen Strukturen begünstigen das Entstehen einer Diktatur? Lisa?
Also welche sozialen Strukturen notwendig sind?
Geht es etwas lauter, bitte? Danke.
Also wenn so viel Ungerechtigkeit da ist und die Leute halt auch nicht wissen, ob sie, also so
Hey,
viele Jobs.
Ferdi! Was soll das? Lisa, setz dich einfach nochmal hin. Atme ganz tief durch. Überleg dir vorher deine Antwort. Und zwar knapp. Ich weiß, dass du das kannst. Versuch's nochmal, okay?
Hohe Arbeitslosigkeit und soziale Ungerechtigkeit.
Gut so. Hohe Arbeitslosigkeit und soziale Ungerechtigkeit begünstigt sicherlich das Entstehen einer Diktatur. Tim?
Eine hohe Inflation, Herr Wenger.
Gut, Inflation.
Politikverdrossenheit.
Sehr gut, Caro.
Nationalbewusstsein. Ich meine, wir haben es ja alle gesehen bei der WM, als plötzlich überall die Deutschlandfahnen rausgehängt wurden.
War doch super.
Nee, ich fand's total widerlich.
Ja, genau, das war doch geil an der WM. Hä? Wenn die Deutschen nicht endlich wieder stolz auf ihr Land sein dürfen, wie jede andere Nation auch so, dann führt das doch nur zum Gegenteil. Dadurch entsteht doch der Hass auf alles andere.
Ich glaube, das, was Mona meint, das ist sowas wie extremer Nationalismus. Können wir uns darauf einigen? Gut.
Yeah, we good.
So I urge everybody to watch this
I
movie.
bet.
It has relevance that is still relevant today. It is not a far gone idea of how people turn to fascism. It could happen, and it is happening. It's happening in schools. It's happening in our societies. It's happening in our jobs. And if we're not aware of these mechanisms, of the easy ways these people manipulate and control us, we become the next.
I'm with you. But I feel like, and this is why I say I feel like we're drawing lines today. Like, this is why I feel like we had to address the topic that we had to address, and when we're drawing lines today, because that's the case. And there's like, I lost words, but there's like a group of motherfuckers who know where they stand on this. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah. Never mind. But you're right. No, you're right. You're 1,000% right. Everybody go watch that movie. Everybody go check out Missy's movie.
Watch
like,
The Wave.
Go watch The Wave.
I feel like next week people have to come back and tell me what they think, you know? And then,
I don't know. What I'm terrified about is they only watch like the first 45 minutes of the movie and they come back and like, you know what we need? We need an autocratic state, yeah? Das ist was wir need. Das ist not gut. Das ist nicht gut, yeah? I don't...
We're on a tippy edge there, Ethan.
I don't really do. Nah, there's no inappropriateness. I could do inappropriate German all day long. What are you kidding me?
Yeah, fair.
I could do that all day long.
All right. People have to come back and tell me what they think, and then next week there'll be another movie that people have to watch. You know.
I bet. We'll find these things on Netflix. Listen, Bildung, right? Bildung. Take this away with you. Hold on, yo, go check this out. I got to line myself up correctly for this shit. They got to line themselves up correctly for this shit. Check this out, Bildung, right? Cool. Now check this out. Look how nice this is. The call of thinkers against the demands of credentialism, careerism, and financial temptation dangled to graduating students. Pow! That's how we do that shit. Man, get the fuck off my life. No, but
did you write that?
Listen.
Oh!
I wrote many things. I didn't actually write that. I wrote many things. This was not one of them. But this is certainly one of those things I could pass off as something I wrote. 1,000%. 1,000%. My books are online, so I'm going to just pretend I wrote this shit, but that's not the point. I want us to take that with us. But more importantly, more than anything else, I want everybody to stay healthy, everybody stay safe, everybody stay happy. God knows whatever else you guys try to hold it down under these circumstances. I understand everything's fucked and we're all feeling the way. Y'all think seriously about staying the fuck at home. Think seriously about fuck the state, and think seriously about what we can do about this. There are options and there are opportunities that we've got ways we can navigate this. The circumstances are not what they were in the 1960s. This is different, fam. This is different. The options are there. The things we can do are there. We just only need to engage one, two of them, but it's there. But in any case, thank you to everybody who turned up to Open Seminar 10. We are in double digits. We are 10 weeks in, consistent as a motherfucker. You know how we do. So I'm going to see y'all for Open Seminar 11 next week. Look how we killing it out here. Anybody got requests on subjects or what have you? Anybody want to tell us anything about the seminar? Anybody got any opinions or any views? Y'all can always hit us up. Y'all can always send us a message, what have you. I appreciate everything from everybody. Peace, health, and blessings to all of you and all of your families and everybody associated with you guys. Like, everybody hold it down. And for real, we're drawing lines. So that motherfucker that y'all all know who's a little bit dodgy, you know what I mean? He's telling him that he's a little bit dodgy and just be like, yo, homie, you either straighten up or we don't need to know each other. We're drawing lines this year. See these lines? We're drawing them. Twice.
I'll give you that.
I got it twice, and with a bar. I'm killing them out here.
Nice.
But no, seriously, peace, blessings, and health to everybody, man. For real. One, to everybody, I'll see you all next week. Seminar 11, you know how we kill it. Missy, thank you very much for Missy's movies. I'm going to catch you all in, man. Take it easy, man. Blessings, man.
Laters.
What?
Hit him with a little ghetto gospel.
Those who wish to follow me,
My ghetto gospel.
I welcome with my hands, and the red sun sings to last
place I sit and reminisce, thinking of bliss of the good days. I stop and stare at the younger, my heart goes to them. They tested with stress that they under, and nowadays things change. Everyone's ashamed of the youth, cause the truth look strange. And for me, it's reverse. We left them a world that's cursed, and it hurts. Cause any day they'll push the button, and all good men like Malcolm X and Bobby Hutton die for nothing. Don't it make you get teary, the world looks dreary. When you have your eyes, see it clearly. There's no need for you to fear me. If you take the time to hear me, maybe you can learn to cheer me. It ain't about black or white, cause we're human. I hope we see the light before it's ruined. My ghetto gospel.
Those who wish to follow me,
Ghetto gospel.
I welcome with my hands. And the red sun sinks to last into the hills of gold. And peace to this young warrior without the sound of guns.
Tell me, do you see that old lady? Ain't it sad? Living out of bags, versus laugh for the little things she has. And over there's a lady, crack got her crazy. Yes, it's giving birth to a baby. I don't trip and let it fade me from out of the frying pan. We jump into another form of slavery. Even now I get discouraged. Wonder if they take it all back while I still keep the courage. I refuse to be a role model. I say go, they control, I got my own bottles. I make mistakes to learn from everyone, and when it's said and done, I bet this brother be a better one. If I upset you, don't stress, never forget that God isn't finished with me yet. I feel his hand on my brain when I write rhymes. I go blind and let the Lord do his thing. But I'm a less holy, cause I choose to pump a blunt and drink a beer with my homies. Before we find world peace, we gotta find peace in the war in the streets, my ghetto gospel.